There's something happening inside you right now. Not a thought exactly. Not an emotion you could name if someone asked. It's more like a pressure. Like the air before a storm shifts, and your body knows before your brain does. And you're walking around your life doing the normal things, making the coffee, answering the emails, having the conversations, and underneath all of it, there is this hum. This low, persistent, undeniable hum. And you don't know what it means. That's the part nobody talks about. That's the part that makes people feel like they're going insane, or like they've made something up, or like they're being naive, because you can feel something enormous gathering in you, and you cannot point to it. You cannot explain it to anyone. You cannot even explain it to yourself, but it's there, and you know it is. I want to talk to you today about that specific experience, not the arrival, not the breakthrough, the realization, the moment everything changes. We'll get there, and I promise you, we'll get there. But I want to start at the beginning. The long, disorienting, almost unbearable beginning. The part where you sense it before you can see it. Because that part is its own thing. That part has its own intelligence. And most people are completely unprepared for it, which means they do one of two things. They force it or they abandon it. They either try to manufacture the thing they can feel coming, try to rush it, try to grab it by the collar and drag it into the present, or they get so scared by how unclear it all is that they convince themselves they imagined it. Neither of those things will serve you. What you need instead is to understand what this feeling actually is, where it comes from, and why it's happening now. And when you understand that, when you really feel it in your bones, you stop fighting it. You stop doubting yourself. You start moving with it instead of against it, and that's when everything begins to shift. So let's go all the way back. At some point, without any announcement, something in you stopped being satisfied. Maybe you can trace it to a specific moment. A conversation that hit different, a night you couldn't sleep, and the ceiling looked back at you like a question. Maybe it crept in so slowly you can't point to a beginning at all. Just a growing awareness that the version of your life you've been living no longer quite fit the shape of who you were becoming. That dissatisfaction, the one that doesn't have a clean name, that is the signal. Not a problem to be solved, a signal. A message from some deeper part of you that has been running calculations you weren't aware of, cross-referencing who you've been with, who you're capable of being, measuring the gap, and deciding, finally, without your conscious permission, to make you feel it. Your deeper self does not send emails. It doesn't schedule meetings. It doesn't sit you down and say, I need to speak with you about some developments. It sends you this feeling, this restlessness, this vague, aching, sometimes agonizing sense that something is coming, something is changing, something is already in motion. Even when the surface of your life looks exactly the same as it did 6 months ago. And here's the part that makes it so disorienting. The feeling arrives before the evidence every single time. Think about the way weather actually works. A front moves in, the pressure in the atmosphere changes, and there are animals, dogs, horses, birds, that feel that shift hours before a single cloud appears in the sky. Their nervous systems are calibrated to the invisible. They're reading data that hasn't manifested yet. You are doing exactly that. The change in you is already underway. Something has already shifted at a level you don't have direct access to. Your intuition, and I'm not using that word in a mystical sense, I'm using it in the most practical, literal sense. Your intuition has detected that shift. It is sending you signals. And those signals are showing up as this feeling that you can't quite name but also cannot ignore. The problem is that we live in a world that has trained us very thoroughly to trust only what we can see, what we can prove, what we can show to someone else and have them confirm. And so when something real is happening that doesn't yet have visible proof, we discount it. We call it anxiety. We call it wishful thinking. We call it a phase. And sometimes, I want to be honest with you, sometimes those things are what it is. Sometimes restlessness is just restlessness. Sometimes the hum is just noise. But you know the difference. That's the thing nobody can take from you. You know when this feeling is different. You know when it has weight. You know when it is directional. When it's not just general discomfort, but something that's pulling you somewhere, even if you can't see where. That knowing is not nothing. That knowing is everything. So let's talk about what actually happens in this period, this liminal space, this before, because there are things that are completely normal in this phase that will terrify you if you don't recognize them for what they are. The first one is disconnection. When something new is being born in you, you will almost always feel, for a period of time, profoundly disconnected from the things that used to feel familiar. The routines that used to feel like home suddenly feel hollow. The relationships that used to feel nourishing sometimes feel thin. The work, the hobbies, the identity you'd carefully constructed, it all starts to feel like a costume you're wearing rather than a skin you're in. This is not a sign that you've lost everything. This is a sign that you're outgrowing something. And I know that distinction sounds simple, but it doesn't feel simple. It feels like loss. It feels like something is dying, and you're grieving it. And you don't even know what the grief is for, because nothing has technically ended. Nothing has technically changed. And yet you are mourning. What you're mourning is a version of yourself. You're mourning the smaller container, the identity that no longer fits. And grief is the right response to that. Grief is the right response to anything that ends, even when what's ending is something you've outgrown, even when what's coming is something larger and truer and better. Let yourself feel it. Don't rush through it. Don't try to fix it. Don't go looking for the next thing too soon, because this period of disconnection is part of the process. It's the gap between who you were and who you're becoming, and you have to cross it. The second thing that happens is that you become intensely sensitive to other people's stories. You start noticing everywhere people who made a leap, people who followed something they couldn't explain, people who trusted a feeling before they had a plan. And something inside you catches fire when you encounter those stories. Not an ordinary interest. Something brighter than that. Something urgent. Pay attention to that fire. That fire is recognition. Your nervous system is lighting up because it's seeing something that corresponds to what's already happening inside you. It's like hearing someone describe a dream you had and forgot. You know that feeling? The way it comes rushing back, the relief of it being named? That's what happens when you encounter someone else's story of trusting the invisible. Some part of you says, yes, that. That is what this is. And then there are the other stories. The ones that make you inexplicably sad. The ones about people who had the feeling and didn't follow it. Who talked themselves out of it. Who waited for certainty before they moved, and certainty never came. And years went by. And now there is this particular expression on their face when they talk about it. You know that expression. It's not quite regret. It's something quieter than regret. Something more resigned. Something that says, I knew, and I didn't trust what I knew. Those stories are also speaking to you. they're saying something your own voice might be too gentle to say. Listen, the third thing, and this is the one that catches people completely off guard, is the silence. When something profound is gathering in you, there will often be a phase where inspiration dries up, where creativity goes quiet, where you sit down to do the things that used to flow and nothing comes. And this is the part where people panic. They think they've lost it. They think they burned out. They think that whatever they had, they've used it up, and now there's nothing left. But here's what's actually happening. Everything is being reorganized. Think of it like a river that's been redirected. For a moment, sometimes a long moment, the old channel runs dry, and the new channel isn't visible yet. The water is moving, but underground. And if you stand in the old riverbed and see it empty, you might conclude that there's no more water. But there is. It's just moving somewhere you can't see yet. This is why the greatest mistake you can make in this phase is to force output, to demand that something come through when the reorganization isn't finished. You'll produce things during that forcing, but they'll feel hollow. They'll feel like imitations of what you're capable of. And the gap between what you produce and what you sense is in you will actually deepen your despair. Instead, and I know how hard this is, instead, you wait. Not a passive wait, not a collapsed, defeated, staring at the ceiling wait. An active wait, a listening wait. You stay close to yourself. You stay close to the things that are asking something of you. You pay attention to the small signals, the things that catch your eye, the ideas that arrive in the shower, the images that appear in that hypnagogic state between sleep and waking. None of them will seem important enough. All of them are. Let me tell you something about vision. Not the spiritual kind, though we'll get there. The physical kind. When you walk into a dark room, your eyes adjust. And the way they adjust is interesting. Your pupils dilate, yes. But more importantly, different cells in your retina activate. The cells that can see in low light are not the same as the cells that see in bright light. When you're in this period, this before, you are learning to see in a different kind of light. The sight you've been using your whole life, the one calibrated for the bright, obvious world of evidence and logic and clear next steps. That sight is not equipped for this darkness. It keeps looking for what isn't there yet. It keeps demanding a level of clarity that this phase cannot offer. But there is another kind of seeing. It's slower. It requires stillness. It reads differently. In impressions, in feelings, in the quality of attention you find yourself giving certain things and not others. And this seeing, when you learn to trust it, will not leave you lost. It will lead you exactly where you need to go. The question is whether you're willing to navigate by it when you can't navigate by the other. At some point in this phase, you will be tempted to explain yourself to other people. You'll be sitting with someone who loves you, someone who wants to understand you. And you'll try to explain this feeling. And you'll watch their face for recognition. And you won't quite find it, and you'll feel lonelier than before you started talking. This is normal. This is not a sign that you're alone in the world. It's a sign that what you're carrying has not yet taken a shape that language can hold. And that's actually okay. More than okay. It means you're still in the part before the translation, and some things are deeply harmed by being translated too early. There is a particular way that a feeling dies when it gets put into words before it's ready. It's like cutting open a seed to see what's inside. You learn something technically, but you destroy the process. So hold it. Not forever. You're not meant to carry this alone indefinitely. But for now, in this early period, there is wisdom in the guardedness. There is intelligence in keeping something sacred before the world has a chance to have an opinion about it. And yes, it's lonely. And yes, that's part of it. And yes, you can survive it. I want to talk about doubt, because doubt is going to be your constant companion in this phase. And you need to know what kind of companion it actually is. Doubt is not the enemy. I know that sounds wrong. I know it feels like doubt is what's keeping you stuck, what's keeping you from moving, what wakes you up at 3 in the morning and lists every reason this is a delusion. Every way you might be embarrassing yourself, every version of this that could go wrong. But that doubt, that specific, articulate, very well organized doubt, it is a sign of intelligence. Not because the doubt is right, but because the doubt is proof that what you're sensing matters enough to scrutinize. You don't lie awake doubting the things that don't matter. You don't feel the fear in your chest about things that have no power over you. The intensity of the doubt is directly proportional to the significance of what you're on the edge of. Think about that. The bigger the thing coming, the louder the doubt. Because your nervous system is trying to protect you. It's running risk assessments. It's looking at this enormous, undefined, uncertain thing on the horizon and doing what nervous systems do, sounding the alarm. So when the doubt is loudest, when it's most convincing, when it makes the most logical arguments, when it sounds most like wisdom, that's often the moment when you are closest to something real. And not the moment to back away. The moment to get very quiet and very honest with yourself and ask, is this the doubt of genuine mismatch, or is this the doubt of genuine magnitude? There is a quality to those two kinds of doubt that is completely different, and somewhere in you, you know which one this is. Now, let's talk about time, because this period, this gathering, this before, has its own relationship with time that is completely at odds with the way our culture talks about growth and change. Our culture wants everything to have a timeline, a roadmap, a quarter where you achieve this milestone, a year where you hit this goal. And there is a place for that kind of structure. But it is not here, not in this phase. This phase does not respond to pressure. It does not respond to deadlines. It does not speed up because you're impatient, and it does not slow down because you're scared. It moves at its own pace. And the people who learn to accept that really accept it. Not just say they accept it, but actually stop fighting the pace. Those people often look back and say that the timing was perfect, that what felt like it was taking too long was actually taking exactly as long as it needed to. Because when the thing arrived, they were ready for it in a way they wouldn't have been earlier. And the people who forced it, who manufactured a version of the change before they were ready, who settled for a smaller answer because they couldn't tolerate the uncertainty, many of them end up back in the same feeling a few years later, the same hum, the same restlessness, having to do the waiting they didn't do before. I'm not saying this to frighten you. I'm saying it because trusting the timing is not weakness. It's not giving up. It's not passive. It is one of the most courageous things you can do. To stay in the uncertainty. To keep showing up to a feeling you can't yet see. To not force a resolution that would only be a placeholder. That takes strength. That takes a different kind of courage than the courage to act. It's the courage to be. And to trust that being fully is itself a form of movement. Here is something that tends to happen around the middle of this period. A small thing catches your attention. It might be a book you pick up on a whim that happens to answer a question you've been carrying. A conversation you didn't plan to have that opens a door you didn't know was there. A moment where you're doing something completely ordinary and a thought arrives, not a dramatic thought, not a revelation, just a small, quiet, oddly specific thought that you almost dismiss. Don't dismiss it. These small things are not coincidences. Not in the mystical sense. I'm not making claims about the universe here. But in the very practical sense that your attention is different now. In this phase, you are attuned in a way you aren't in ordinary life. You're listening at a different frequency, and so you're picking up signals that were always there, but that you used to walk past. A book you needed has probably been available for years. The conversation that unlocked something in you could theoretically have happened at any point, but it happened now, in this phase, because now you are oriented differently. And now you are receiving. This is why people in this period often describe a strange sense of everything connecting, of ideas and experiences and encounters arranging themselves into patterns that feel meaningful. It can feel overwhelming. It can feel like too much is moving at once. But this is the gathering. This is the shape of what's coming, beginning to emerge, piece by piece, not as a whole image, but as discordant individual details that your mind is starting to arrange. Trust the pieces. You don't need to see the whole picture yet. Let the pieces arrive. At some point, you will have a conversation or a thought or a moment of stillness that goes deeper than the others. And in that conversation or in that thought, something will be said, or you'll say it, and it will stop you. Not dramatically, not with fireworks or tears, and though those aren't impossible, more likely with a quality of silence, a pause that's slightly too long, a moment where the world seems to rearrange itself around a single idea, and then the pause ends, and you continue, but you're not the same. That is the beginning of the breakthrough. Not the breakthrough itself, the beginning of it. The moment where the thing you've been feeling without seeing starts to take its first shape. It's like the first light before sunrise, and it doesn't look like morning yet, not even close. But anyone who has sat by a window through the night knows that first, barely perceptible lightening of black to deep blue is different from the dark. Something has shifted, something irreversible has started. That moment for you might have already happened, or it might be coming. Or, and this is more likely than you think, it might have already happened and you didn't recognize it, because breakthroughs almost never feel the way we expect them to. They don't arrive with a score and a caption. They arrive quietly, disguised as an ordinary conversation, an ordinary thought, an ordinary moment that is anything but ordinary. Think back. Think back over the last weeks, the last months. Was there a moment that was slightly different? A moment that felt, just for an instant, like a door? Even if you didn't walk through it, even if you didn't recognize what it was, that moment is significant. Go back to it. Because here is the truth about all of this. The truth that every moment of this has been building toward. The thing you can feel coming. It is not waiting for the right circumstances. It is not waiting for your fear to leave. It is not waiting for everything in your life to be perfectly aligned, for the doubts to be fully resolved, for the path to be entirely clear. It is waiting for you, for the version of you that has done the work of this period, that has sat in the uncertainty and not collapsed, that has felt the fear and not run, that has honored the feeling even when they couldn't explain it, even when no one else could see it, even when the evidence for it was nothing but a low hum in the chest and a knowing that lives somewhere below language. That is who it's waiting for, and that is who you are becoming. Right now, in this period, in this uncomfortable, disorienting, impossible to explain phase, that you are somewhere in the middle of. You are becoming the person who can hold what's coming. The capacity expands before the thing arrives, always. You don't become ready and then it happens. You become ready by doing the work of this period. The waiting is the preparation. The uncertainty is the training. The doubt that you've been sitting with, the loneliness of carrying something you couldn't share, the grief of outgrowing what you've loved, all of it has been building something in you that you can't see yet, because it's still being built, but it's nearly done. I want to say something directly to the part of you that is tired, not the ordinary tired. The specific kind of tired that comes from carrying something heavy for a long time, carrying it alone, carrying it without knowing exactly what you're carrying or when you'll be able to set it down. That tired is real. And I'm not going to tell you that the tiredness is about to end because I don't know your specific timing. What I can tell you is that the tiredness itself is evidence. Evidence that you have been in this long enough, faithfully enough, that your body is saying, something needs to shift, and it will. It is already shifting. The things that are gathering inside you do not gather forever. There's a point at which they become too full, too alive, too much to contain. And then they move. Not because you forced them, not because you finally did everything right, but because that is the nature of the process. Pressure builds until it needs somewhere to go. You're at the end of the pressure phase. And the release, when it comes, and it will come, will not feel the way you imagine, because by then, you'll have changed enough that your imagination will have changed too. It will feel like breathing after holding your breath for a very long time. It will feel like arrival, like you've been traveling a road that kept looking like it was ending, kept looking like it would run out. And then it curved one more time, and you came over a rise, and there, for the first time, you can see where you were going. And you'll know, instantly, completely, in a way that doesn't require verification or confirmation or anyone else's opinion. You'll know that this was it, that this was what you felt coming, that every moment of doubt and patience and holding on and almost giving up was leading here, to this, to a version of your life that is larger and truer than the one you were living before the hum started. And you will look back at this period, this impossible, uncertain, beautiful, necessary period, and you will not regret a single day of it, not one. You felt something. Before you had a name for it, before you could explain it, before any evidence arrived, you felt something, and you trusted it enough to stay. That was the first act of courage. This whole thing, everything that's happening in you, everything that's building, it started there. With that first small, unseen act of trusting what you couldn't yet see. Don't stop now. The feeling that brought you here, that low, persistent, undeniable hum, it's still there, isn't it? Yes, it's there. And it's getting louder.